Out there today. This is Stefan Jimenez from the RotoBeast team, and I'm here to present our NFL Week 9 picks. As always, if you want to watch our full video, please go subscribe to our YouTube channel at RotoBeast. And if you want to play the actual lineups that we're playing this Sunday, please visit our website at www.rotobeast.net. So, this week, it's kind of an ugly week in the NFL, in my opinion. There's a couple really good spots that we can look to target. But outside of those games, I think there's a lot of games that we shouldn't even look at. For this video, I'm gonna quickly just get you my top four players at each position. All right, so let's jump into it. So let's start at quarterback. I think the top quarterback on this slate, in my personal opinion, is going to have to be Cam Newton. He's going against Atlanta at home. Atlanta hasn't been the best. And I know Cam Newton hasn't been the best, but if you look at his career history against Atlanta, he always gets up for these games, and he really likes going against Atlanta, and he's had great success. So I think that Cam Newton's really going to get it going this week. We know that when he runs, he adds that extra, those extra yards. He's getting 11 carries for 44, 9 carries for 50, 11 carries for 71. So this just adds to his floor. And then if, he gets a couple passing touchdowns, it's just that much, more that he gives you. So, and he runs a lot for touchdowns. So we got to like Cam Newton this week against Atlanta in the competitive game. It's going to go back and forth. Next, we will talk about Drew Brees. This guy at home, we know what he does. He hasn't been doing the absolute monster games that he's done in the past, but you know what? He has it in him, and Tampa Bay is bottom of the third in the league in defense. I definitely think that Drew Brees can have a big game. It's just the thing that scares me is this game going to stay close or not? I mean, that's kind of what's been hurting Drew Brees somewhat is they've been getting up and blowing people out, so then he stops, kind of going at it, and they play conservative. But I think he's in a great spot this week. Next, we will talk about Russell Wilson going against Washington at home. Russell Wilson has proven to play better at home throughout his career. Russell Wilson has just been good. I mean, he had a rough start to the season. He really started picking it up. Washington is in the middle of the pack defensively. Russell Wilson's the same as Cam Newton. He gives us those rushes. Not as many as Cam, but he does give us those rushes that adds, a quick little 3 points. 4 points almost, 3 points. Also, I mean, the guy's he's been throwing really, really good. I mean, this is the difference between Russell Wilson and Cam Newton. The reason I think that Russell Wilson's a little bit safer in cash games, just because he gives you those rushing yards, plus he gives you, he's throwing for 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. He really gets those throwing touchdowns as well. Compared to Cam Newton, he really doesn't have nobody to throw to. So I think that Russell Wilson's floor is a little bit higher. But both of them are great plays. And the last guy I'm gonna talk about, and I'm not saying it because he's my guy, but you know what? We're at home. Dak has been playing great. He's along with the other guys. He gives you those, those rushing yards that we're looking for to give you that higher floor. And he's been on fire. He's been throwing the ball really well. I think that this is going to be a very competitive game against the Chiefs, who are a really good team. At home, I think Dak's going to be ready, and I think he's a solid cash game quarterback this week as well. Next, we'll move on to running back. I think that Kareem Hunt's probably going to be the top running back of the week. Going against my Cowboys. I mean, our run defense hasn't been the best this season. Hunt has had a couple bad games. That kind of is going to scare people away somewhat. But you know what? We know the guy's, upside. I think he's a really, really good GPP play. I don't know if I really trust him too much for cash games just because the price is extremely high. Next, we will talk about the rookie Fournette. This guy's just good. At home, they've proven that they're just going to feed him the ball and feed him the ball. He's getting 21 carries, 28, 24. Even when he only got 17 carries, he still got 4 targets, 3 catches. He's being used a lot in the run game and in the pass game. I think he's a really good cash game play this week. Next, we'll talk about, yes, a lot of people are going to be on Gurley, and I like Gurley as well. I'm sorry, Ingram. I like Ingram. The guy's been solid. but his price is rising. So the guy that I'm going to kind of look at a little bit more than him is going to be the guy that's spelling him. They're pretty much splitting all their carries. I mean, this guy's been almost just as good as Ingram, but he's almost, he's what, 1,300 less. He's not getting the same rushing attempts that Ingram's getting, but he's getting a lot of catches, and he's turning those catches into, big plays. He has been getting in the end zone. I really like this guy on the lower end of running backs. And then, yes, I'm going to talk about the guy. I brought him up accidentally before I got ahead of myself, but I do like Todd Gurley. The guy's been a workhorse. He did have a bad game against Seattle, which is a good defense. But besides that, 28 carries, 23, 23, 22. He's getting 8 targets, 7 targets. They're running a lot of plays through Todd Gurley, and I really like him this week. I think that Gurley's a little bit safer than Kareem Hunt cash game wise. Just want to throw that out there. Next, we'll move on to wide receivers. I think the top wide receiver is going to be Michael Thomas. He's Drew Brees' favorite target. I told you I really like Drew Brees. The guy's getting massive targets. 11. He had a okay game. Didn't get too much against Detroit, but he was being spelled by Slay, which is a good cornerback. Went back to Green Bay, got 11 targets. 8 targets, and he, for the most part, makes the most of his targets besides this game. So I think he's a solid cash game wide receiver this week. A guy that I like to go along with him is Dez Bryant going against the Chiefs. This shows you right. The Chiefs are 30th ranked defense, 30th against the pass. Dez, he hasn't been having no monster games, but he's been having solid games and he's getting massive targets. So I really like him going against the Chiefs this week. I think that he's a solid cash game play along with Thomas. Another guy I think is going to be a little bit more on the chalky side, but it makes sense, is Devin Funchess. Carolina has no number one receiver with Calvin Benjamin gone now. Funchess is going to get a lot of targets for 6,100. We need pretty much 12 points out of him. He was already getting a lot of targets, 10, 9, 8, 9, 8. He had an off game against, but he still got 6. The problem with him is he doesn't make the most of his targets, and that's the problem with him. But I think he's going to be a chalky option this week that a lot of people are going to be on. I really don't know how much upside this guy honestly has, especially being the number one receiver. As a number two receiver, he wasn't doing the best. So as the number one receiver, I don't know. I kind of want to wait and see a little bit. And the last guy I'll talk about a little bit on the higher end, Julio Jones. We're still waiting for that monster game. He hasn't had it yet. We're used to that 12 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdown games. It hasn't come. He had a good game against New England. 20 fantasy points, but that's his highest of the season, and he's gonna have a 30-point game. I can see it coming this week. I say this every single week, but it's coming. The thing about it is the Carolina Panthers actually have a pretty good defense. It shows you right here. They're second in the league in defense, third against the pass. So it's going to be kind of a tough matchup for Julio Jones, but he's one of those wide receivers that, he's almost matchup proof. For under 8K, I think this is a steal. I think this is an absolute steal, and I really like Julio Jones this week. Moving on to tight end, we'll start with the top tight end, in my opinion, Travis Kelce. My Cowboys, we don't have the best defense. Kelce he's pretty much like a wide receiver one on other teams. The guy puts up monster fantasy numbers. He's 20, 14. He had an off game against Pittsburgh, bounced back with 11, bounced back with 23 against Denver, the number one ranked defense. Kelce gets a lot of targets, 10, 7, 11, 8, 10. Alex Smith really likes him, and I like him this week as a top tight end. Next, we'll go with Ertz. I don't know if he's going to play, so you got to keep an eye on it. But if he does play, it shows you. He hasn't been under in single-digit fantasy points all year. The guy's been very consistent. And Denver's a very good defense. But just like I showed you with Travis Kelce, Denver gets hurt against the tight ends. So if Ertz plays, he's in a great spot. Next, we'll talk about Jimmy Graham. I told you a little bit about Russell Wilson earlier. I like Jimmy Graham as well. He's really been picking it up. He's had, double-digit fantasy points in 4 of the last 5 games. And this one where he didn't, he still had 8 points, it's horrible, but it's not a killer. He's really starting to pick it up. Him and Russell Wilson are getting a really good connection going, and I like Jimmy Graham. The last guy I'm going to talk about, I think he's a little bit more on the cheaper end. Jack Doyle. This guy, he's just been good. He's going against a Texans team who's 22nd against the pass. I mean, this guy's been getting tons of targets, 11, 7, 7, 14, and he's been producing 12 catches for 121 yards. Obviously, this is an outlier. We can't expect this every single game, but I could definitely see him get 9 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. Even if he gets me a quick 12.5 like he got me right here, I would be very happy with that. So I'm gonna quickly just go through kickers. I think the top kicker is probably gonna have to be Walsh. For Seattle, I think they're gonna put a lot of points up. This guy, I mean, kickers are hard to pick. I like him as a top kicker. The next kicker I'm gonna talk about, this rookie is actually really, really, really good. And I think they're going to put up some points on our Dallas team. But the thing is we're stingy in letting people in the end zone. So a lot of people do settle for field goals against us. And this kid has been great. 21, 14, 8, 21, 12. He's good, playing simple. And the last kicker I'm going to talk about is Will Lutz. I like this guy a lot. I think the Saints are going to put up a lot of points, and he's had double digits in what 4 of the last 5. He's been very consistent this season. I think he's a solid kicker. And then just quickly through defense, I think the top defense, in my opinion, is going to be Seattle at home. I love playing them at home. Cousins has been he's been turnover prone. Seattle's good, and they're even better at home. They got double digits in the last 3 or 4 games, 20, 16, 7, 13 at home against Cousins. I really like them. Next, we'll go to the Jaguars. Their defense is just really, really good. Plain and simple. You can't throw on them. You could barely run on them. I mean, I like these guys a lot. They got, over 12 in every game but 2. And from a defensive perspective, that's really, really good. And 20, 28, 20. That's just showing you the upside that this defense has. Eagles against Denver. Denver is having a QB change. We don't know what to expect. Eagles defense has been pretty good this season. And they can get you, double digits. They got a 22, they got a 10, they got a 20. They're not my favorite defense, but I think they're a solid defense. And the last one I like a little bit, and I'm not really too excited about them, is where are they at? Houston. They're going to have to step it up going against Brissett, who's not the best quarterback. Um, you know, Without Deshaun Watson, they're going to have to step up on defense and play a lot better. They've been showing that they could play pretty good this year. They got a 9, a 9, a 19 against Tennessee. KC, they put it on them. They bounced back with the 22, and then Seattle kind of put on. So I think this is more of a GPP play along with the Eagles. I think for cash games, you kind of go with the Seahawks or the Jags. So that's kind of where I'm at for today. Sorry I got these picks out late, but if you have any more questions, leave a comment below, and we could talk about the people that you're talking about. And hey, let's get some money this week. Bye.